Welcome back to Watchbox Studios and Watch Us Tonight. I'm your host, Tim Masso.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Watch Insider. My name is Bryan. I am joined by Tim Masso. And thank you guys for logging on.
Oh, hi. Welcome to another episode of The Trading Desk. Happy Friday. My name is Joshua Thanos. And this is the king of the castle, Jason Main.
So, it's an amount of money that many everyday watch enthusiasts can muster by setting a goal and then arranging life priorities to match. So it's a good range, but we're talking under 10 grand, and that opens the door to some seriously cool hardware. Herewith, grand watches for under 10 grand, starting with the Zenith El Primero Rattrapante Chronometer Chronograph. This is a cool one, previewed in 2010 and only made for about 2.5 model years. This is one of the rarest modern Zenith complications and one of the few Jean-Frédéric Dufour era Zeniths that was chronometer certified. With an original retail price of $15,300 in 2012 and features to match, this was seriously premium hardware. Today, you're going to pay around $7,500 to $8,500 for this watch in steel, full box papers, never polished, 44 millimeters, stainless steel, COSC certified Swiss chronometer, El Primero Rattrapante caliber, grand date, display case back, full clasp. It even comes with a full deployment clasp. They did not pinch pennies on this thing. This was the flagship of the catalog, short of the Tourbillon, and it's far more useful than the Tourbillon. This watch has Zenith manufacturer pedigree. It has modern high-tech watchmaking, immense wrist presence, and the rarity of a model only built in a few hundred copies over about 2.5 model years. So seriously scarce, even compared to that $25,000 secondary market Rolex Daytona. Forget the wait list at Rolex and AP. Go for this thing. I've worn it. I can tell you it's a 44 that wears compact. I can pull it off on this wrist. You guys will too. All right. Now, scaling down, but with the same gravitas on the wrist, Breguet Type 20 3800 ST, the Aeronavale. Quick, name a Rolex Daytona replacement chronograph that is around 40 millimeters, full bracelet, stainless steel, automatic, no date, and has real 20th century history to match the clout of Rolex's legendary Cosmograph. Doesn't leave many options, but the Breguet 3800 is one of them. A watch that is an all-timer, tracing its model origin back to 1994 and still in production. It matches the Daytona's immunity to obsolescence and the passing period fashions of each age. Plus, it has the underpinnings and the heritage of the 1954 French Type 20 military chronographs to give it real historical punch to go blow for blow with any Rolex Submariner, any Blancpain 50 Fathoms. So this is a watch that has it all going on. And again, 40 millimeters, 39.5, no date, automatic in steel, and you can get it on a full bracelet for about $6,000. That's right, full bracelet, box papers, never polished. You can get this thing for $6,000, and as it's still made, the retail is still listed at $10,900 for the watch on a bracelet. That's a hell of a lot of cred, and it's not easy to find that Rolex Daytona sized, full bracelet, automatic, 100-meter water-resistant, no-date chrono. Go ahead, try. You're not going to find many options. The Breguet aces the test. MIH watch. This episode is all about Tim Masso's regrets, and therein lies another. This is high on the list. I should have bought it when it was in my hands, and it's a museum gift shop favorite that, frankly, I just can't get out of my mind. Ludwig Oxlin was the curator of the MIH in Luluk, the local watch and clock museum. He designed this watch as a gift shop token that people could buy to benefit the museum. Launched in 2005, it ran for about 4 model years, and it was an all-star cast. It's really an anthology of the best of Swiss watchmaking. The actual annual calendar was by Ludwig Oxlin, he of the Ulysse Nardin Trilogy of Time, and laterally of Oxlund Jr. of Lucerne. The watchmaking, production engineering, and the reversal of the chronograph was done by Paul Gerber. The watch was made in his atelier, and when it's serviced, it goes back to Paul Gerber in Zurich. Finally, Christian Gaffner handled the industrial design, which has aged remarkably well for a watch from the heady days of the mid-2000s, when anything that was smaller than 45 millimeters qualified as a mid-size. So this thing has already passed the test of time.
Okay, let's keep going. So let's do the 5030G. So keeping it up with, slightly off the beaten path case shapes. Here we have a 5030G Gondolo from Patek Philippe. So this is an older discontinued reference. What drew me to the watch itself was the tonneau shape, but that the watch actually seems, slightly large for the time period, if that makes any semblance of sense. But really was the overly large Arabic numerals. I just thought that the overall execution of this watch with the brush dial was done just, very nicely. And I think that it's references like this that Patek had produced in the past that very much go overlooked today, but are available at, competitive prices. And I think that, like, if you're looking for a Patek Philippe with a date that, that's slightly on the larger slide, that's not the traditional round watch, like 5030s are a prime example or a target where you can get a really good buy.
And I think it's fun to take a look back. Like you said, it was a large watch for the time, 34 millimeters from 9 to 3. The qualities that really strike me with this watch are not just the fact that they're Arabic numerals, but that they're all polished applique in white gold, and that the hands at center are actually of a Breguet style and matching white gold. You have a dimple style minutes and seconds track outboard, and my personal favorite, this is an anachronism from 1990s, early 90s Patek Philippe, the hallmarks in the flanks of the case. You'll see that on early 3970s too, and that's a wonderful throwback to the modern era of caseback hallmarks and hallmarks between the lugs. That was back when they stamped it right on the side of the visible portion of the watch. I love that.
Yeah, so really nice watch. And let me throw it on the wrist real quick just so that you can, what size would you say this is?
34 millimeters across.
So, but it fits a lot larger. Like this to me, visually and as far as the fit goes, does not fit like a 34 millimeter
I would
watch.
say it wears like a 40 millimeter round watch.
Correct. Yeah. So when you see this thing on the wrist, and that's one of the things that I think you really got to see it in the flesh to have that kind of understanding, is that this fits almost like a 40 millimeter round watch. But when you use just the one measurement, it really doesn't convey the overall feel of the piece.
Non-round watches are always idiosyncratic in the way they wear, and none more so transitional line than the JLC Reverso. These truly have to be tried on the wrist before you can make the choice.
I mean, this is awesome.
He just sold the watch to himself.
I feel
Congrats,
like it happens
guys.
all the time as I go. It's like cathartic going through this and looking at all the watches and trying to pick out what should be on the show.
Audience should get a commission on that.
They should get a commission on that.
All right, so we're looking at the...
Had to bring a Jaeger-LeCoultre for you.
And I appreciate that. A rarity, launched in 1998. This was actually the Reverso Calendar, and it harks way back to the old caliber 412s of the pre-war, the interwar era, where you had the early JLC calendar wristwatches. This one featuring, like that historic reference, a day and a date with a radial central display for the date that's coaxial with the hands at center. You've also got a nice overlap between the railroad-style seconds track and the date ring, as well as the minutes and hours at center. A lot going on this dial. A lovely piece, and of course, as a Reverso, it features that rotating case. Now, there is something to be said for a traditional buff-back Reverso that's able to be customized. I love my complications and my double dial Reversos, but this is very traditional, and it's a blank slate for you to memorialize a life milestone, a graduation, the birth of a child. There is something to be said for that.
There is, and you know what? I think that, especially with the customization that JLC offers, but if you go on Instagram now, there's a lot of engravers out there that you can find that are doing amazing work that you can send the watches off to. And I think that one of the best features of a solid caseback Reverso is exactly that you could customize it. You could do something really cool in the back that that gives the watch that just added extra flavor of your personality.
Now, there were a couple of versions of this watch.
This watch
all
is
of
awesome.
them are desirable.
It was a little thick for me, though, I thought.
The Reverso?
This particular one.
Yeah, this is a grand tie case, so it's 26 wide by 42 lug to lug, but it is a chunk. I mean, you can see with a rotating case and a complication, this was never going to be the most svelte of Reversos.
And it's not a small watch by any means. I mean, again, like this definitely has presence on the wrist.
It's like, right, because it's a good cause. Like you're essentially buying a vacation and getting a cool watch at the same time. So
No, I think it's a great idea, and I think that as we see retail change, we see like a lot of the brands are going vertical. They're cutting out their dealer network because they're saying, hey, with the internet, we don't need all these guys to go out and sell our watches. Some brands are still happy with that. You see the
distribution
Pateks,
model, yeah.
right? Pateks and Rolex, but a lot of these brands are going vertical, but like a company like Richemont that makes so many watches, I don't know if it's possible for them to go vertical. We'll see. So, but finding these ways to get people excited about their brand, it's fantastic marketing that the customer's paying for as opposed to the company paying for, right? And I think it's a very inventive way to create a real connection between, you know, a hunk of metal, or say like mechanical art, like what I like to refer to watches as. So mechanical art, so it's a frivolous purchase, or whatever, however you want to look at it, right? So it's, you know, tertiary income spent on something that's not needed, but it's a great way to
luxury item,
luxury item,
joy,
exactly. So it's a great way to create a real connection between these two. So I think it's very interesting. I hope to see that with a lot of different brands too.
And I think it speaks to, so that's the next level of what you have to do to bring that type of experience. So years ago, these brands went to like boutiques.
Sure.
Right? Nobody really knew if that was going to work. It was a risky move. They kind of didn't. Right? A lot of them either went out or they lose money every month. Right? So you have these brands that have these boutiques. Now, what's the next step? Because that didn't work. What's the next step? Well, the only way that those stores stay is if you cut everybody else out and you make that the place you have to go.
Right.
Which I think makes sense for the vertical model, because now you have these stores that mean something again. And then once, we don't know if that will work, but the next step to that is creating an even more luxury experience with these type of events, which you know, those shops do anyways. Like Omega will have, you know, a night where they invite everybody for champagne and watches. Right. Unfortunately, a lot of times they get very pushy, because if you come to that event, you're expected to, you know, to slide your credit card, but which is a little weird. But
well, I think that it should be the other way around. Like, so you get to have this experience because you buy the watch. I think that like a company like Hublot could be throwing these massive parties where you, in order to gain entry, you have to own their watch. Omega can do, I mean, they have so many different partnerships. They can do James Bond themed events. They can do racing. They can do space. So like every brand, if they're going to survive, they need to make their watches a little bit more experiential, as opposed to just here's something that, you know, you can wear on your wrist and feel proud about, or you know, whatever it may be.
So Omega sells more Speedmasters and Seamasters than they know what to do with. So I don't know that they really need to do an event, but there's certainly, you could do like a local poker night, you know, martinis and poker, Casino Royale night at the store, you know, or something. That'd be cool. But for watches of, you know, this kind of, or the Panerais, we're spending $30,000 plus. These events are pretty cool. So I'm excited to see what the next step for something like that is.
Right, and they're relatively inexpensive, and the brand, especially if they're selling through the boutiques, there's enough margin for this to work. So it's like, hey, if you come in and buy, so for, like you said, Omega sells as many Speedmasters and Seamasters as they can, but a lot of those are not sold through the boutiques. A lot of those are sold through the dealer network. So if they sell through a boutique, they keep all that margin. So you make an incentive. As opposed to, here's a glass of champagne. Hey, how about if you bought the watch at the boutique, then now you get a free pass. Like now you get, you're part of the club.
Go to Space Camp for the day or something like that.
Or something like that. I think it's a good way to market.
A thought that just kind of appealed to me also is that the Mike Horn thing and like these events are kind of like a small opening window to what big time spending guys have been doing for years. And that's like, if you buy enough Pateks, you get to go to Switzerland and see the factory. If you buy enough of this, you get to go to Basel with one of the companies or something. That used to only really be for like big hitter guys. Now you
$1 million customers.
And then, you know, $30,000 is a lot of money for a watch.
Hell yeah.
So it's not that it's, you know,
especially
not a big purchase.
Yeah,
but it's not that it's not a big purchase, but that was never, you never got a special experience like that for a $30,000 watch before. So I think that's where the genius behind this is. And I think it'll do really well. I'm pretty sure those watches are going to sell out right away.